everybody, welcome back to another video of Game of Thrones Academy. Hi Tamar.
Hello.
Today we have a really cool video. We're very excited about it. We're going to talk about Robb. Okay, so what do we know about Robb Stark?
Robb Stark, first of his name.
First?
And last.
Last.
Firstborn of Ned Stark.
Honorable Ned
basically, Stark. Groomed for leadership.
Right.
Take control of the North.
Right.
Was pushed into leadership.
Thrust
into leadership and to war. And to be basically a warlord, like a military leader.
Right.
Very early in his career.
16.
And he was 15, 16.
Right.
He had to lead an army and to be a commander-in-chief of all the North. With
16?
16, with a very clear role and goal to avenge his father.
Right.
And bring some of the honor back to the North, who was humiliated by the Lannisters.
Right.
A lot of stuff on his shoulders.
Yeah, it's a really big war. Like the war of the kinds the North has not seen for, I don't know, centuries.
He proved himself as an accomplished leader.
Right.
He united the North. He called the banners.
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. He had to. He had a test of leadership with the great John Umber.
Your meat is bloody tough.
Even Ned, when he was in prison before he got decapitated, when he was told that his son was now the leader of the North and raising an army, he said, "But he's just a boy." And I think Caitlyn also.
This boy won 3 battles. He schooled basically. He schooled Tywin Lannister.
Tywin Lannister,
the top dog of Westeros.
Right.
In the last generation.
Right.
Tywin, one of his mistakes, only mistakes that you read about is the undervaluing of Robb.
Right.
You say, he's just a kid, he will come to me, and then Robb really
it was very smart,
very cunning.
Very cunning, right.
A great military leader.
So at that time, after he wins those 3 battles, we start really, and after Ned was killed unjustly, and we were rooting. So we were rooting for the Starks, and he represents the Starks in the North, and we feel that this is the hero that we've been waiting for in this fantasy story.
He, with a capital H, George R. R. Martin, did a great job in establishing Robb Stark as like this generic hero, a vengeful hero that needs to take vengeance after his father. He really built him like that.
The generic thing is interesting because it doesn't have a POV view, a point of view, so that makes him more generic. We don't know his inner workings, where, I don't know, he feels uncomfortable or insecure.
That's why his death was very painful.
It became a pop culture phenomenon. People videotape themselves being shocked by his death.
Oh! Fucking asshole!
This is one of the moments in the story.
What makes it
when
so
you
shocking?
read it and you say, okay, this is not the story I thought it would be. Ned was like the catalysator of this this war.
Right.
And you were shocked and sad, but you said, okay, but his kid is very talented and is his son, he's really his son.
And sometimes the mentor gets killed, but the son, in generic stories, the son rises to prominence, and we know
he won battles and all this stuff. And then we came to the twins to make this uncle wedding.
Right.
And
everything's fine.
We saw, when I read it, I said, okay, something's fishy, but no, it cannot be,
It's against the rules.
It's against the rules. When he died, I said, no, wait. I put the book aside, and I said, no, this is not, this does not just happen.
But then when you reread it...
When I reread it, I said, in realistic terms, he had no chance of winning. Basically.
Why?
Because he's a kid. He's a kid.
But he's a hero. He's smart.
But 16-year-old kid cannot win, cannot beat Tywin fucking Lannister.
Tywin fucking Lannister.
They're like the number one guy, the number one politician.
Right.
The number one ruthless character.
And he didn't even kill him in battle. He killed him with politics.
With politics,
so it goes to
when you facing Tywin Lannister, you need to be cunning, ruthless and experienced.
Right, because in this world,
In this world, in the Middle
the-
Ages,
in the
in the Middle Ages, it wasn't like we say a world for the young. Today we can say this is a young man world, you know, we're looking like all the time for something fresh, for something new, for something like rebellious, you know.
right,
And in Hebrew, you call this age tipesh esrei,
yeah,
which
teenage
ba-
years.
the teenage years you call tipesh esrei, which literally translates as the stupid age, like the stupid age. Like we expect it from
right.
this age to be the kids that age to be stupid.
So in our world now, we see ageism on the rise. People discriminate older people. So back then we didn't have ageism.
We had ageism, but the opposite. They discriminated. They looked down upon
The young.
the young people.
So if you look to history, are there any historical young wolves out there?
Yeah. There was a movie in the 80s, The Young Wolf, I think. There were like young wolves, like young conquerors, you know, who proved themselves and their
For example?
promise. For example, Joan of Arc.
Right.
She was in her teens, 14,
Right.
I think, 15, and she led an army, a
And
French
she had
army.
no inhibitions.
Alexander the Great, you
Alexander
know,
the Great.
was young, not in his teens, but he was 19 when he started. Like the real historical inspiration, the real, or maybe this is what he with a capital H said,
Right.
and we only found out about it from one of our fans in Sweden.
Yeah, they messaged us.
And she told us about this young king called Charles XII, or in Swedish, Karl XII.
We apologize to our Swedish viewers for that.
Karl XII. And he inherited the throne from his father, which was nicknamed the Lion of the North. And he was, Karl XII, was nicknamed the Wolf of the
Ah. And what did he
North.
do as a young
And
wolf?
as soon as he came to power, a lot of the surrounding powers declared war on Sweden, and he had to prove himself in battle, and he did prove himself in battle,
Okay.
but politically he wasn't that wise, and he was betrayed by one of his own.
Okay. So this is a great setup for this video's bold prediction. So when you look at Robb the Young Wolf and Karl XII the Young Wolf as an inspiration, what is your bold prediction regarding Robb and young wolves in general?
I think Robb Stark will be a footnote in history.
A footnote in
A
history?
footnote in history.
But he's such a beloved character.
Yes.
And he was so vital for the story for the first 3 books.
Yeah, but when we are talking about history, talking about a perspective of a long time. When I say a footnote, I mean like figuratively.
It's an expression.
Like expression, you know, not that important in the general
Scheme of things.
scheme of things.
We see Sansa as ending up as queen, and so he will end up known as the brother
Yeah,
of the
brother.
queen.
He tried his best, was
then
failed.
died.
Yeah,
That's
he's
it.
Ned maybe will be more important as the catalyzer of
Right.
this war.
Right.
And his son wanted to avenge him and then,
then-
failed after 1 year or
It's
one and
like
a half
one
year.
sentence or
Yeah,
one
yeah.
paragraph.
It's
That's
not
it.
that important. A footnote in history is like I think about. Do you know Cesare Borgia?
Yeah. You told me about him when we got ready for this video.
But before that, you haven't heard.
you want me to act out surprised? Okay. So take 2.
So have you heard about Cesare Borgia?
No, who is he?
If you have watched The Borgias, which
Okay.
is a very bad show by Showtime, maybe you've heard of him. A ruler in the Renaissance time, a son of a pope, illegitimate son of a pope, and basically,
Of course, he's illegitimate.
we
he's the son
know
of a pope.
about him a lot because Machiavelli. It's written about him as an example for the good prince.
The prince, the
The
book
prince,
The Prince,
yeah.
right.
Not good in the sense of good, but as like this
Effective.
effective Machiavellian ruler. But he basically failed. He was poisoned at the end of his life. If Machiavelli, we know more about Machiavelli than about Cesare Borgia.
And he's more
But-
important now.
and he's more important now. But during this time, the Borgias were like this prominent family in Italy. They had popes, they had dukes, they had a lot of rulers and politicians.
Right.
And so if you were living in that period, and Machiavelli wrote for Borgia.
And nobody knew Machiavelli. He wasn't that important
No,
at the
it
time.
wasn't that important at the time.
But history
but
plays the game
history
here.
plays the game, yeah.
Right.
And now we know more about Machiavelli than about Cesare Borgia, and maybe we never heard about Cesare Borgia if Machiavelli wouldn't write about him.
Also, another example that I thought of when we discussed it about the Paris Commune, that at the time a lot of people felt that this was some great thing coming and will change the world, but then it's an anecdote,
Yeah.
basically in history, and then things.
Or like the
came back.
Tiananmen Square
Right.
demonstration in China that back then was a kid, but you remember, everyone
Right.
remembers the guy standing in front of the tank.
But then
But
maybe,
what became of that, 20 years later?
But then maybe in like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, something will happen that
Yeah.
that history will connect to the
it
Tiananmen
all
Square.
depends
So it's
on
developing,
who
ongoing.
writes the history.
Yeah,
Who
it's
writes the history?
and it's ongoing.
Yeah,
like
it can change.
Nothing
yeah.
is finite.
Mhm.
Okay, do you have more recent examples of historical footnotes?
Remember the Orange Revolution in Ukraine,
Of course.
led by this guy Viktor Yushchenko. I remember in 2004 we looked upon it like a historical moment.
Right.
But after a few years, the economic crash in the
Mhm.
world, and the guy that he deposed came back to power,
Right.
and no one remembers Viktor Yushchenko now.
So maybe now it's just part of the chaos that led to what we see
It
the
is
situation now
a
in
historical
Ukraine.
leader, it's like a footnote. More closer, Muhammad Morsi,
President of Egypt.
the former president of Egypt.
Yeah, he won an election.
And everyone thought it's like a big shift in
Yeah, what does it
history,
mean?
what
What does
that
it mean?
means to the rest of the region. After 1 year,
Coup, made a coup, and now he's in prison.
In prison, yeah. No one remembers him.
You can also maybe say that Yeltsin, even though he was the first president after the fall of the USSR,
Yeah.
like he's like Putin overshadows
Gorbachev,
him.
yeah, Yeltsin,
Yeah,
and Putin.
Putin. Okay, so let me put you on the spot. Can you think of anyone of importance now that you believe will become a historical footnote? A person that is now holding power?
Yeah, I go straight to the world leaders, even though the political world leaders have, I say, less power than they used to have,
Okay,
because there's more economics now and globalization interests.
okay.
But I will say I'm very, very not impressed with David Cameron.
UKPM.
It seems like more like of a puppet than a real ruler.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like
I
like
think-
things are happening in Britain, but he's, I don't know, not doing anything very decisive one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a bold prediction. Okay, so UK viewers, if you think that Itamar is right or wrong, you can comment on that. Okay, do you have more bold predictions about historical footnotes?
Kim Kardashian. Now she's like one of the most famous people in the world, and Kim Kardashian, what she's doing now. In 20 years' time, who cares? She will be old and wrinkly, and no one will care. It's like no one will. She won't appear in any cultural historical books.
Maybe as an example of, I don't know,
Of the decline of
the
humanity.
decline of humanity in the Western civilization. Okay, that was a very, very cool video, in my opinion. Let's wrap this up. So if you think that Rob will not be a historical footnote in the annals of history of Westeros, comment. If you think he will be, you can comment as well. And click like if you enjoyed the video, and support us on Patreon. And of course, subscribe to get our next video, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.